Welcome everyone. Thanks a lot for staying with us. You're watching Plain Speak with me, Shivani Gupta. Twitter co-founder and former CEO Jack Dorsey has made some stunning allegations against the Narendra Modi-led central government. While giving an interview, Dorsey claimed that centre had sent several requests to remove posts and block Twitter accounts, which we knew, but added that these were of people critical of the government during the farmers' protest in 2021. Dorsey also alleged that government threatened to shut the social media platform in India if they don't comply. All opposition parties have now attacked the centre, claiming that Jack Dorsey's statement proves dictatorship in India. The central government, on its part, though, has termed Dorsey's allegations as outright lies. The government alleged that this was an attempt to brush out a dubious period of Twitter's legacy and history, maintaining that all India wanted was for Indian laws to be complied with, something that Twitter has resisted for a long time. Is Jack Dorsey's statement then half-truths? Was the action by Indian government a clampdown, as he suggests, or just a push for compliance of Indian laws? We'll take those questions to our guests in just a bit. But first, let me break down what Dorsey has said and how the government has responded. So, Jack Dorsey has claimed that there were several requests from India during farmers' protests to take down posts or accounts. Now, that is, of course, in public knowledge. The government says that this is because there was a lot of misinformation that was going around on Twitter at that time. But here's the most important part. Dorsey claimed that the requests were even around journalists who were critical of the government. IT Minister of State Rajiv Chandrasekhar has slammed this, saying that Twitter had a problem in discarding misinformation on the social media platform, which they otherwise claim to do on their own in other countries. Dorsey has also said that requests were manifested in a way that threatened Twitter. The government says that Twitter behaved as if Indian laws did not apply to them. Finally, Jack Dorsey has also alleged that they were threatened with shutting down of their offices and more if they don't comply. The government minister says that no one was jailed, no one was raided, neither was Twitter shut down in India. So what is Jack Dorsey complaining about? So let's talk about exactly what happened during the farm laws agitation. What is it that the Indian government asked for? So India had asked for banning or blocking of handles flagged by an intelligence report. These flagged handles belonged to Khalistani or jihadi elements. Government sources suggest that most of these accounts or tweets were also operating from outside India. The Indian government then also asked for a ban or takedown of tweets of 250 handles with, quote, fake, intimidatory and provocative tweets. These tweets, the government says, included the fake and false hashtag of a genocide in planning of farmers in India. After initial action, most of these accounts were then restored by Twitter, and actually Twitter representatives and government representatives were meeting during this time. Finally, when those handles were restored, Government of India served a notice to Twitter for not complying and warning of action under Section 69A of the IT Act. And this section certainly has some punitive action, penal action involved. Just to give you an idea of what used to go down inside Twitter when Jack Dorsey was leading it, this is what one section of the Twitter files released after Elon Musk took over revealed. And this is particularly for India. A US think tank, Atlantic Council's Digital Forensic Research Lab, which is funded by the US government, had in 2021 flagged as many as 40,000 accounts to Twitter. This group accused these users of engaging in, quote, inauthentic behavior and were selected because they were allegedly supporting the BJP or broadly supporting Hindu nationalism. Just the sheer profiling here is a matter of great concern. Twitter, though, found that these accounts, by and large, looked genuine and belonged to real people. On top of that, they also found that most of these accounts were of Americans who had no connection to India or Hinduism. But there were indeed many handles part of the Indian Twitterverse who found a mention in this list. Now, that wasn't enough to suggest downright bias by the platform. Here is more. Twitter has long been accused of curbing free political discourse, being especially hard on conservative and right-wing voices, especially in America. But when this happens during elections, it amounts to direct meddling with elections. I'll come to that in just a bit. First up, take a look at what more was revealed via Twitter files on COVID in USA. Twitter suppressed dialogue around the COVID pandemic and vaccines. Twitter suppressed top medical experts for differing views, especially on lockdowns and vaccines for children. And several ordinary users were also suspended for disagreeing with the US government policies. Of course, Twitter justified it by calling it a curve of misinformation. But as it turned out, even noted doctors were gagged or shadow banned, and many of the things people were saying then are turning out to be medically accepted now. Then there is the whole Hunter Biden laptop story saga. Accusations against Joe Biden's son were at their peak just ahead of US presidential elections in 2020. And what Twitter did is the biggest indictment of its policies and bias then. Twitter files revealed that former head of legal at Twitter, Vijaya Gadde, played a key role in censoring this particular story. Twitter censored the New York Post story on Hunter Biden's laptop, which could have been damning. This decision was also made at the height of the 2020 presidential polls in US, so it ended up benefiting one side. Mails reveal, in fact, that Biden's team contacted Twitter, flagging off or sharing several tweets and handles. And Twitter responded by saying, quote, handled. These are mails that are now in public domain. Here too, Twitter had even tried to justify this block by using hacked materials policy. But the most shocking aspect of these revelations were that Jack Dorsey had no clue what was going on. So when Jack says what he says about India and with the inconsistencies in his statement, is it possible that he actually has no idea what the Indian government was asking for and what his own team was doing? That's the big debate coming up on Plain Speak. First up, the fundamental question is it wrong for the Indian government to ask a platform like Twitter to comply with the Indian laws? Was it clamped down or just a push for compliance?
India, for example, India is a country that had many requests of us around the farmers' protest, around particular journalists that were critical of the government, and it manifested in ways such as we will shut Twitter down in India.
I think he knows it, I know it, everybody knows it. It's an outright lie. The facts are there for everybody to see. Nothing of the sort happened. Nobody was raided. Nobody was put in jail. And I am very surprised and shocked that a man who used to be the CEO of this platform is today resorting to outright lies.
The truth is that Twitter under Dorsey was in violation of Indian laws for an extended period, and they were asked to comply with the law of the land, which is how any government would expect a social media platform to behave. Twitter had a problem with every country that they were operating in, including the United States, their home country.
Chandrasekhar has been asked to do this kind of jobs by Mr. Amit Shah and Modi to just deny in a denial mode only. Yesterday's data breach also he was in a denial mode. Today also in Jack's issue also he is on a denial mode.
कांग्रेस ने हमेशा कहा दबाव है और फिर पुलिस चहलकदमी करते हुए क्यों गई थी वो रिकॉर्ड भी सामने है और मैं मानता अगर वो एक देश के लिए कहते उन तो 3-4 देशों का नाम लिया है
वो ठीक नहीं था मतलब देश के अंदर अगर कोई किसान आंदोलन को रोकने की अगर कोशिश की गई तो ये तो गलत बात है
Let's go across to the guests joining us. Syed Zafar Islam is from the BJP, Swati Malik from the Congress Party, Karthikeya Tanna is author and lawyer joining us, Riju Datta from the TMC, and also Smita Prakash, editor ANI with us. I thank you all for your time. Swati, let me begin with you. The Congress has, of course, raised this vehemently. You're saying that this is evidence that, there is dictatorship in India and that there is muzzling of free speech. But as a political party in India, are you in favor of the government enforcing its laws on any platform, especially an intermediary platform? Or would you say, after listening to the government's version as well, that this was pure muzzling of dissent or free speech? We do know and do remember what was being said or what was going around on Twitter, for example, during the farmers' protests.
Shivani, thank you for having this debate. And the question that you've asked is actually, we are not here to question what has been said by the government. We are here to protect our citizens and our right to dissent. The statement made by the ex-CEO and the ex-board member, let's not forget he's not even on the board of Twitter since March or May 2022. But for him to make these statements, and not just about India, but about Turkey and other various other nations as well. So it's not like we are being targeted. We are not being targeted. The fact that these statements are made about us should make us introspect. Yes, during the farmers' protest, when those accounts were being asked to ban, to block rather, to not be able to spread information, what was the reason for it? What was the cause behind that? Why should the government interfere with people's right to protest and sharing?
The government has said exactly this, that they were asked and identified because one, they had very inflammatory hashtags like Modi is planning genocide of farmers, and they were patently false information, fake news or misinformation, not just inflammatory tweets. So what is wrong with the government in asking the platform to take you down? I am 100% sure even a Congress government would be in favor of taking down such tweets.
Shivani, it's not just one act or one hashtag being banned. That's not what was being asked. Let's not forget that Mandeep Punia was arrested. Why was he arrested? So the government was trying everything that it could control to suppress the voice of the farmers. Why was Disha Ravi, arrested from Bangalore, and both these people were let out by the judiciary? So why was the government so desperate to arrest whoever was able to share the information? Why was the government so desperate?
Okay, actually that's a good point you raised. Let me go to Mr. Islam with that. It's not to be seen in isolation what the government asked Twitter to do. It is to be seen in a broader perspective, because there were several actions being taken by the Delhi police that comes under the central government or by other arms of the government that suggested that there was an unease with the farmers' protests, and there were multiple ways being looked at to somehow curb them.
First of all, Swati, let me make it very clear that it is not only lies, it's a blatant lie. Secondly, I must give you some more information, having been part of the IT committee of the parliament. And several times we had asked the Twitter CEOs to depose in front of the parliamentarian and the committee, and they did come. And every time when we asked them to why are you not complying with the law of the land, and we had a lot of interactions, to only what we were insisting that you have to comply with the law of the land. Mind it, what we were suggesting to comply with the law of the land, it is not only represented, the committee is not represented by only BJP, from every single party has been represented by, this committee was represented by every single party. And everyone was posing this question, and they were only reverting to us saying that let us speak to our people in US, and then we will revert. Secondly, we were also suggesting them to have a compliance officer based in India. Such a large country, number of users, but you don't have a single compliance officer in India. Compliance officer is sitting in New Jersey, and you expect them to comply with the law of the land, not having anybody stationed in India. So still, there were a lot of struggle, and they were not complying with this suggestion as well. So government of India has only suggested them, insisted them, and made them realize that this is not a banana country.
So why
banana
is it,
Republic,
Mr. Islam, why is it that Jack Dorsey will wake up one day and, paint India in the same brush as Nigeria and other countries? And he particularly talked about India, saying that this is a democracy. His suggestion was, imagine what will happen in countries that are not democracies. Why do you think he's targeting you or India?
See, he is jobless right now. He is out of Twitter. He is out of fame and name, whatever he had earned, and he was using it to his benefits. Right now, he is out of that. So this is the only thing he's left with, to make such kind of a false and wild allegation against a country which everyone knows is the mother of all democracy. Everybody has the right to speak. But there are certain things which, of course, it is the responsibility of the government to flag to Twitter, and we did it. And the government must have done it purely because to ensure the law and order situation should not go beyond.
No, we have excerpts of the notice that was sent to Twitter. I'll request my producers to run that so that our viewers can take the benefit of it. But let me go across to Riju Datta before I go across to our other panelists as well. You know, Riju, there are blatant inconsistencies as far as Jack Dorsey's statements are concerned. Now, one is the opinion that, you know, he felt that the Indian government threatened him. Fair enough. But he also goes on to say that we were told we will raid the homes of your employees, which they did. I'm quoting him directly from what he said in this news excerpt. Is that not a blatant lie? Riju Datta, please. Is that not a blatant lie? Because no employees of Twitter were raided. Their homes were not raided. In fact, the police only went to Twitter offices once to, you know, give them a notice. Even those offices were not raided.
I have some very limited points here today. And the points are, if Mr. Dorsey is lying, and if he has brought this huge charge against the Indian government, then Mr. Narendra Modi, as the Prime Minister of the ruling government, should take him to court. Simple as that. Because we want to know the truth. Because until unless that happens, the truth will never come out. It will be hearsay. He says this, they say this.
No, but I'm pointing you to what is not hearsay. One second. I'll just reiterate it, you continue. I'm pointing you to what is not hearsay. That's why I kept the hearsay part aside, because we don't know what transpired, who threatened him, as he's claiming, whether it was said to him or somebody else. As I pointed out earlier, it's been proven by Twitter files that many of the decision-making Jack Dorsey was blissfully unaware of when he was at the chief of Twitter. So we don't even know whether he was part of these meetings. But what is not hearsay? What is not hearsay is the fact that he says that they raided employees, the homes of employees of Twitter. That never happened.
That nobody knows, unfortunately.
No, we know it didn't happen. Come on.
No,
Riju, come on.
The problem is, I'll tell you, I'm not going to say that they were raided or not raided, but I'm just saying nobody knows, because the problem in this country now that we face is one day morning we choose to believe the Twitter files, but we do not choose to believe the Hindenburg files. So that is each to their own. I'm not going into that. But the bigger question that as an opposition I want to ask is that, yes, the Prime Minister Modi never wanted a genocide. The farm laws were implemented, 700 farmers died, fact, and the farm laws were taken back. That these are facts. Now, Jack Dorsey does not belong to Trinamool Congress, Indian National Congress. He is not even a voter of this country. Why will he bring this charge? Why will he bring my country in the same platform as Nigeria and Turkey? These are the points I want to ask. The final thing I want to say is, you know, when all this was happening, it reminded me of a quote by a famous ruler of a foreign land who said, there is freedom of speech in my country, but I cannot guarantee freedom after the speech. And you know who said that? Idi Amin said that. So my question is, right now the ruling government of the country is on the stance that they have influenced a social platform which the ruling government uses the most for their publicity or whatever propaganda. So they should, if these are lies,
they should take him to task. Okay, I'll give Syed Zafar Islam an opportunity to respond to that, but let me bring in Kartik Tanna and Smita Prakash as well. Kartik, why do you think Jack Dorsey is acting like a victim or a martyr here? Because let's be fair, Twitter wasn't a very transparent company, fair to all, when Jack Dorsey was its CEO. I've just enumerated everything that has come out in the public domain. You don't have to take all of it, you know, as 100% truth, right? You can take it with a grain of salt. But we lived through the time when Jack Dorsey was at the helm of Twitter. We all know what used to happen. And Twitter is a much accused platform of everything that it did in US when it comes to its politics. So, you know, here Jack Dorsey comes and acts like he's holier than thou. He wasn't.
Yes, exactly. Shivani, if I can use the metaphor, Jack Dorsey at Twitter was like Manmohan Singh in UPA, unaware of what was going on in Twitter, you know, largely unaware. But jokes apart, you asked a question, why did Jack club India with other countries that actually stifle freedom of speech? And honestly, there are insinuations, you know, about the timing. You know, why did this happen just a few days before, you know, Modi is going to go to the US in a very high profile, a visit that is very exciting, promises to be very exciting. I'm not going to go into that. That's all conspiracy theory. Why did Jack club India with them? Honestly, one word answer, ignorance. He clubbed India with all other third world countries because in his worldview, that is what it is. So he doesn't understand the difference between a democracy with a constitution and other countries. Now, let me bring attention to a pertinent point. Everything and anything, all the actions that were taken against Twitter or even initiated against Twitter were under the law, under the IT Act. We have Section 69A, which actually says that if any intermediary, and Twitter is an intermediary, if any information published on that threatens the sovereignty or integrity of India or even public order, for that matter, the central government is authorized to tell these intermediaries to block access to that information.
Yes.
And guess what? If they do not do it, they face up to 7 years in prison in addition to fine. Now, my simple question to the opposition parties is who are supporting Jack Dorsey today all of a sudden is, why doesn't anyone object to this law? Why do they object just to Modi government's application of this law? If they really have a problem with this, if they really are paragons of free speech, if they really want India to be this, country of, extreme free
Absolute
speech,
free speech,
why are they not opposing this law?
No, I think
Why
their
are they-
opposition in the past has opposed to the intermediaries' rules, which have been changed a couple of times. And I think recently they were changed. Yes, Riju Datta, what is it that you want to say? Very quickly, please.
I just want to say, Mr. Tanna, that one clarification, I don't think any opposition or at least Trinamool Congress is supporting Jack Dorsey. We are not supporting him. But he has
I'm sorry,
made
sir.
a very serious...
I'm sorry.
No. Let me please finish.
Okay.
He has made a very serious allegation on an US broadcasting show that has been made viral all across the world. Now, if these allegations even has a shred of truth, the ruling government and the Prime Minister should take action so that the truth comes out. And if they don't take action against Jack Dorsey, who has maligned my country, then we are being forced to believe that that is what has transpired.
Okay.
You have to understand-
Okay, you made that point earlier. Karthik, please finish. I have to go to Smrita Prakash as well.
But sir, honestly, this is something that can be rebutted very easily with facts. There's no need to take any action because Jack Dorsey's ignorance has been proven very well. He has been unaware of what was going on in Twitter. Twitter files have exposed him threadbare. It's all about adding that to to attacking his credibility. So I don't think this deserves an action by the Modi government against Jack Dorsey.
Okay. Smrita Prakash, I want to come to you on a larger issue before I get to the politics of this as well. The times have changed. There was a time when, Twitter ruled almost as a supranation that we used to talk about. And it's not just India, but there are multiple countries across the world that have woken up to the threat of big tech, and they are asking Twitter to comply to their local laws. In that sense, I don't think it looks bad, even if the Indian government did threaten them that, listen, we've got this penal clause, you better comply with what you're saying. This is what most governments across the world are doing because Twitter was acting in defiance of any democratic laws by a country.
I can't agree with you more, Shivani. And I think on this aspect, there is a general understanding. There is a general, I think everybody agrees on it, as you say, that they have to, these platforms have to adhere to local laws. I don't think any political party will go against it. Yes, in the opposition, whichever country it is, that they will try to optimize it to pull down or to criticize the ruling party. But when they come to power, they do exactly the same thing. They will want these platforms to adhere to the laws. Who wants them to behave as if they are some super powerful outside the planet entity? As far as Jack Dorsey is concerned, I think it's wrong to say that he's out of a job. He's a CEO of Block, which was previously known as Square. It's a huge platform, and incidentally, Hindenburg had done a report on them a few months ago, and shares tumbled 20% there. He's not. He's an eccentric billionaire with quirks and eccentricities. I don't believe that he didn't know the nitty-gritties because he is known to know the nitty-gritties, and he knew very well what was going on out there in 2020 when he's when all this happened. His incentives then were aligned with India. He's supposed to have been threatened, he says. His business impetus was aligned with India at that time. So he remained silent. He capitulated to India at that stage. And why did he do that? He has this largest platform, microblogging platform, and he as CEO got silent. His staff too never made any of these allegations, any of these charges for 3 long years. How come nothing was said about these alleged raids? It's so fishy that, as the single largest shareholder of Twitter, we're talking about a time when India had become one of the largest users of Twitter. So he was obviously raking it all in because he was building up the value of that company. So he keeps silent. He was busy raking it all in from Asia Pacific.
No,
and now that he walks out of it,
in this conversation on this platform that he was
ahead.
speaking to, he was talking about the pressure. They were talking about the pressures that Jack Dorsey faced, being the head of a microblogging site like Twitter, the epitome of free speech and all of that. And I found it appalling that they were building him up so much, given the history of Twitter. Twitter has been extremely unfair on so many people on the platform.
Exactly.
And there is documented history of how they've had their biases.
As CEO, he platformed a sitting president of the United States. How come he was so brave to do that then? It's not as if he was not bold then, right? He could have been bold with this third world country like India at that time. He couldn't stand for that, did he? So his politics is quite clear. He is a left-leaning limousine liberal. He's a billionaire. He comes under this political pressure of a third world, non-left, Hindu extremist or Hindu nationalist government, but doesn't go against Trump. He can put Trump, he can deplatform Trump. So, you have all these leftist media now nodding sagely about how Dorsey came under pressure. No, he didn't. He was just a businessman who was raking the moolah in so long as it suited, and now he's acting all affronted.
Okay, very quickly, Smita, why do you think this has happened now? Because a lot of people, as Karthik said, are connecting this to the Prime Minister's US visit. Do you think there's something there, or that's a bit of a stretch?
Of course, a political party will say that. I wouldn't put it past various ecosystems which work that way. But I don't think Dorsey is doing that. I think Dorsey has bigger battles to fight. And as far as naming India is concerned, I think it was one of the things that he wanted to say. It is possible that he's, sitting in America, he's seeing a little bit of media attention towards India. And somewhere at the back of his mind, he says, okay, I have faced trouble at that time, so let me bring it up. I don't think there is a great big conspiracy. There will be people around this ecosystem who will make a big do about it. But I think he's just spoke and he's moved away. Shoot and scoot is what he's done.
Okay. Swati, I want to give you one more opportunity. And the fundamental question is that, India as a country needs to stand for its laws, its rules. And, they're democratically made laws. And whether it's Twitter or any other platform cannot be given a sense. Today it is one government, tomorrow it will be another, to just, run roughshod over what we believe is important for our integrity. And, there was a lot of problematic content on Twitter at that time. Let's not deny that.
Shivani, I completely agree with you that we should stand by our laws, and especially for the laws that have been made democratically. But let's not forget that this government, of course, you would have seen how democratically the laws are made and withdrawn. We all saw the farm law. We all saw how it was withdrawn. So let's not say that it's all made democratically. But yes, on this stage, if you see this law that they're talking about and what Mr. Dorsey is saying, are you surprised that, why are we doubting or questioning Mr. Dorsey's statement? Why don't we believe it looking at the
I'm not doubting what he's saying, because it's a fact that the government did ask them to take down certain content. But was it not justified for the government to ask for that content to be taken down?
That's what I'm coming to. But here, the government has been shutting everybody who's been questioning them.
Okay, all right, fair enough. I think the most damning insinuation by Jack Dorsey was that this was purely just handles critical of the government. I'm running out of time. I'll give Riju Datta only 30 seconds, please. After that, Zafar Islam.
Yes, only 2 points. Jack Dorsey met Pradhan Mantri Modi. He quit Twitter in 2021, and in 2022, Twitter was bought by Elon Musk. And I quote him. He said that the social media laws are quite strict in India. I prefer and I choose to be compliant with India's laws rather than sending my people behind bars. And I have quoted Elon Musk.
Yes.
So let your viewers decide that. And Rajiv Chandrasekhar today morning, replying to a tweet of ANI on the remarks of Kapil Sibal, said that Mr. Zero Law's privacy is not a fundamental right. Well,
No, he was quoting Kapil Sibal.
No, I'm not quoting Kapil Sibal.
No, Rajiv Chandrasekhar was quoting Kapil Sibal.
Yes, where he said privacy is not a fundamental right, where privacy is the fundamental
No,
right.
no, you're not understanding. Rajiv Chandrasekhar was quoting Kapil Sibal when he re-quoted it. That privacy is not a fundamental right.
Please try to understand, I'm quoting him only.
Yeah, but he's not
Shivani,
saying that privacy
Shivani,
is
let
not
me
a fundamental right. Kapil Sibal said so.
Kapil Sibal made a mistake.
Yes,
that is what
okay,
I'm
all
saying.
right. Yes, Karthik, I'll give you a 30 seconds, but let Zafar Islam come
Yes.
in. Zafar Islam, there is valid criticism of your government that, a lot of people say these things. There is misinformation on platforms. There is misinformation by even noted journals, magazines, etc. You raise it, but nothing happens. Now, Riju Datta has a point. If Jack Dorsey is lying, why don't you drag him to court?
Well, there are three things which I would like to mention. First, of course, all the legal action to be taken by the government, they will take in due course, and I'm not commenting on when they will take the action, whether they will take the action, because it's something which has to come from the government. Having said that, what is more important for us to understand that what is India was asking them to comply with is the law of the land. Secondly, it is not the responsibility of any intermediary to comply with the law of the land. Secondly, who is responsible for the law and order situation in the country? It is the government. And if they feel that something which is not in the interest of the country and something which needs to be avoided, especially it will break the society, or something which is actually being targeted for X or Y, something which the government feels that should not be in public domain, it is the responsibility of the government
Okay, there's a fine line there, but I don't disapprove of what you're saying. And Riju Datta talked about Elon Musk's statement, and frankly, like I was asking Smita earlier, there is very little sympathy for these platforms to do whatever they feel like. Today, the sentiment by and large is that you better follow the law of the land. And if India has a law of the land where your employees can go to jail if you allow misinformation on your platform, provocative, inflammatory statements on your platform, then you better comply or you face the music. So if Elon Musk is smart enough as a businessman to say, I'd rather not face that but follow the law of the land, then so be it. I don't think any Indian feels that there is any injustice being done to Twitter here. Karthik, 30 seconds only.
Yes, Shivani, exactly. You nailed the hammer. Basically, what does Twitter do when we sign up to Twitter? When you sign up an account on Twitter, it says follow our terms and conditions, agree to them. What did Indian government do? If you want to operate in India, follow our terms and conditions, which is our law. And if our law constitutes a provision for arrest if you don't comply, then if Elon Musk says this, he said nothing wrong. If we have a problem with a penal provision in our laws, which basically ask for arrest if you don't comply, then why don't TMC and Congress come together and say, hey, change the law? Why do we have such draconian laws? Okay. If that's the problem, why do we criticize the Modi government for implementing the law?
Okay, fair enough. I'll leave it at that. We'll wait and see how the government takes this forward, or if there's anything that comes in from the Twitter side as well. I do thank our guests for joining us. Some of them will be continuing for our second story.